السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة المتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, now we're on chapter 19 where Imam Haddad is now going to speak about fasting. This fasting is not necessarily just the fasting of Ramadan, but fasting in general. Fasting, as we know, the fasting of Ramadan is a pillar in Islam, and it's vital that we do fast. It's an obligation upon Muslims to fast in the month of Ramadan. Again, he won't cover any fiqh rulings, plus any legal rulings, but some words of advice and certain things to be considerate of, conscious of, inshallah. So let's continue with the lesson. He says, increase your good works, especially in Ramadan, for the reward of a nafil act performed during it equals of an obligatory act performed at any other time. So he starts off with the topic of Ramadan. Now, in the month of Ramadan, do as many good deeds as possible, for the fact that any deed that you do, which is an optional deed, the reward is multiplied by many folds, to the point that the reward is like an obligatory act. Ramadan is also a time when good works are rendered easy, and one has much more energy for them than during any other month. This is because the soul, lazy when it comes to good works, is then imprisoned by hunger and thirst. The devils who hinder it are shackled, the gates of fire are shut, the gates of garden are open, Jannah open, and the herald calls every night at God's command, O you who wish for goodness, hasten, and O you who wish for evil, halt. Now many of us would have witnessed this, that in the month of Ramadan we find this energy, this drive to do many more deeds. This is the time of the month, or the time of the year, where a person exerts all energy as far as possible, taking time off from work as much as possible, so that they can focus on their salah, so that they can come for the night prayers, the Taraweeh prayers inside the masajid, so that they can recite much more Quran. People give a lot more charity in the month of Ramadan. Many people do their utmost in the month of Ramadan in varying different ways, to do as many deeds as possible. And one of the things with Ramadan is that because we are fasting, fasting is that thing that helps discipline the soul. So it's a very good opportunity for a person to gain close proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ultimately speaking, that is the purpose of fasting. As Allah mentions inside the Quran, Surah Baqarah, that يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. That, O you who believe, fasting has been enjoined upon you, just like the people before you, as in just like how it was enjoined upon the people before you. لعلكم تتقون, in hope, so that you may attain taqwa. You may be from amongst the people of taqwa. You may have this quality of taqwa. Now taqwa, it deserves its own topic, but essentially it's being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the day, so that we can protect ourselves from any kind of from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and attain Allah's pleasure. So that's the vision of fasting, that it brings us close to Allah, but it does so through disciplining the soul, and he'll speak a bit more about that. You should work only for the hereafter in this noble month, and embark on something worldly when absolutely necessary. And many people do this. As far as possible, make sure to prioritize your time with doing good deeds and nothing else, and only do other actions on a need-to basis. Arrange your life before Ramadan in a manner which will render you free for worship when it arrives. This is so important. Many people make this mistake, that people do prepare for Ramadan. Many people do prepare for Ramadan before Ramadan arrives, but only in the sense of food and what are we going to cook. So people will cook all kinds of food, or at least prepare anyway, and put into the freezer certain foods, so that in Ramadan they can have plenty of food. That's not the purpose. Now, whilst that is maybe somewhat nice and good, and thinking is nice, but that's not the purpose. In the month of Ramadan, you want to minimize time in actions that don't hold much benefit. You want to prioritize all your time in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to before Ramadan coming, developing a routine where we are used to doing and exerting effort in doing the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people, what happens is that the Ramadan comes and then they try reciting the Quran abundantly, but then they're not used to it. So what you want to do is before Ramadan starts, get yourself used to a routine of reciting Quran. We should be reciting Quran throughout the year anyway, but pushing that limit further, getting used to standing up in prayer for longer hours or however units of prayer, doing other dhikr of Allah, so that by the time Ramadan starts, we're in full swing. What happens is that we start Ramadan and it becomes rocky. By the time through trial and error we've figured out a routine, most of Ramadan's gone. What we want to do is make sure we've figured out a routine, pushed ourselves, got used to that routine, so that by the time Ramadan starts, we have a routine set. We know what works, what doesn't work, and we're in full swing and we're taking the most of Ramadan, we're making the most of Ramadan. Be intent on devotions and approach God more surely, especially during the last 10 days. If you are able not to leave the mosque except when strictly necessary during those last 10 days, then do so. So in the month of Ramadan, especially the last 10 days of Ramadan, exert all efforts, and if you can spend most of your time, if not all of it, inside the masjid, then do so. And the Prophet ﷺ would normally do their i'tikaf, stay in seclusion in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Be careful to perform the Taraweeh prayers during every Ramadan night. In some places, it is nowadays the custom to make them so short that sometimes some of the obligatory elements of the prayer are omitted. So, let alone the sunnahs. So when it comes to prayer, there are certain conditions of prayer, there are certain obligatory actions within the prayer. We know the prayer is of the 5 daily prayers are an obligation, but within the prayer, for it to be valid, there are certain things that need to be done. And omitting any one of those things would conclude one's prayer invalid. So he's saying that many times people, just to finish off the Taraweeh prayers quickly, they use as a tick box exercise or treat it as a tick box exercise, but in doing so they've omitted certain actions of Salah, and hence their prayer is considered is now resulted in being invalid. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake. It is well known that our predecessors read the whole Quran during this prayer, reciting a part each night so as to complete it on one of the last nights of the month. If you are able to follow suit, then this is a great gain. If you are not, then the least you can do is to observe the obligatory elements of the prayer and its properties. So, ultimately speaking, rather than having a large quantity of Quran being recited, but then omitting the quality of Salah and the devotion of Salah and also the obligatory actions during the Salah, don't do that. Rather, you're better off having good quality and a mediocre range of Quran read inside the Taraweeh prayers. But as long as the quality is good and is done properly, the sunnah of the Salah is observed. Watch carefully for the night of destiny. What we know is Laylatul Qadr, the night of power. Watch carefully for the night of destiny, which is better than 1,000 months. That's inside the Quran. It is a blessed night. So he brings another verse of the Quran. It is the blessed night in which all affairs are wisely decided. He continues to say, Imam Haddad, the one to whom it is unveiled sees the blazing lights, mean the Laylatul Qadr. Some people do witness and do have an insight from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala due to their close proximity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in regards to when that night takes place. So the one to whom it is unveiled sees the blazing lights, the open doors of the heaven, and the angels ascending and descending, and may witness the whole of creation prostrating before God, its creator. Most scholars are of the opinion that it is in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So he's speaking about Laylatul Qadr and when it is. And the conclusion is essentially that there's a wide range of opinions, many opinions. Most scholars have gone with the last 10 nights, that within the last 10 nights it is Laylatul Qadr, more specifically the odd nights from amongst the last 10 nights. But the best action point is that every night of Ramadan, make the most of it. Every night of Ramadan is valuable. Don't wait for Laylatul Qadr. Some people think that, I will wait for Laylatul Qadr and it'll make up for everything else. No, that time you missed in Ramadan, you'll never get that back. That is valuable, whether it's Ramadan or not. In all honesty, whether it's Ramadan or not, every moment that goes to waste is a moment that you'll never get back. So regardless of Laylatul Qadr, the question would be, why would Allah give someone the ability to see such a blessed night when they cannot make benefit, or choose to not make benefit of the nights that are given by Allah to them? For every day and night is a blessing. Sometimes people say, there's no blessing in my time goes very fast. Why should Allah grant someone blessing if they do not make the most of the time that they have, and they just waste away that time? Something to consider. May Allah save us all. Ameen. Most scholars are of the opinion that it is in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and is more likely to fall in the odd numbered ones. A certain Gnostic meaning someone that's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a certain Gnostic witnessed it on the night of the 17th, and this was also the opinion of Al-Hasan al-Basri. Some scholars have said that it is the first night of Ramadan, and a number of great scholars have said that it is not fixed but shifts its position each Ramadan. They have said that the secret wisdom underlying this is that the believer should devote himself completely to God during every night of this month, in the hope of coinciding with that night which has been kept obscure from him, and Allah knows best. Hasten to break your fast as soon as you are certain that the sun has set. Delay suhoor. Suhoor is the early morning meal that we partake in before the fast starts. Delay suhoor so long as you do not fear the break of dawn, because we need to make sure we finish eating and drinking before the break of dawn. The reason he says delaying is because it's a time of blessing, it's a time of barakah. So definitely do partake in some suhoor, even if it's a date, a morsel of food, a drink of water, a sip of water. It's beneficial. Feed those who fast at the time when they break it, even if with some dates or a draught of water. For the one who feeds another at the time of breaking the fast receives as much reward as he, without this diminishing the other's reward in any way. So basically, there are hadith in this regards, that a person who is fasting, and you feed that person, even if it be just a sip of water, a sip of milk, or maybe even just a piece of date, that reward, when you feed the fasting person, you will attain the reward of that fasting person. That other person who's been fasting originally will attain his full reward, but you will also get the full reward as well, because of your generosity and your the food that you've given or drink. So one practical thing would be is that in the household, maybe just swap the food to one another and just feed one another. So you pick up your date, but then at the time when everyone's about to break the fast, just swap around. Maybe the spouse, they give each other their dates or something of the sort. Strive never to break your fast, nor to feed anyone else at such a time except with lawful food. Just a point in regards to feeding one another, ideally you should feed your neighbours or people around your friends and family. But let's say for argument's sake you haven't been able to give anything to the neighbours or anything in the household then. So don't make that your immediate thing, but try to feed others around in the community. Strive never to break your fast, nor to feed anyone else at such a time except with lawful food. Do not eat much, take whatever lawful food is present, and do not prefer that which is tasty, for the purpose of fasting is to subdue one's lustful appetite, and eating a large quantity of delicious food will on the contrary arouse and strengthen it. Again, like I said at the beginning, we forget the purpose of fasting. The purpose of fasting, as well as attaining taqwa, is about disciplining the soul. And we really can attain that. We can discipline the soul, but if we, on the other hand, are eating the food that we really do desire, that we really are craving, the best of all foods, then there is no discipline whatsoever. All we've done is a hunger exercise. And yeah, our fast will be accepted, inshallah, and the fast is complete and it is valid, but you've missed the purpose of fasting itself. One of the purposes of fasting is essentially, look, if you can stay away from eating and drinking and committing and essentially having sexual intercourse during the fasting hours, because they're the things that you need to stay away from during the fasting hours, and during the time that we are able to eat, we do discipline ourselves, then that should teach someone something, that I'm able to control the things which are very important to a person. Eating, drinking is important to a person. A person does it every day. We have a desire to eat, hence we spend so much wealth on eating nice food. And same with the sexual desires. Again, it's something that we desire. If we can control these things, then by default we can control ourselves from staying away from sin in all other matters. If we can control those things which we need to do, essentially eating and drinking, then we can control everything else and discipline ourselves in that regards. That discipline will lend itself a long way. That's just a summary of a part of fasting. Fast on the days on which the law encourages you to fast. I mean, the Sharia encourages you to fast, such as the day of Arafah, for those who are not participating in the pilgrimage, the 9th and the 10th of Muharram, and the 6 days of Shawwal. These are all fasts upon which there is merit attached to it. And the 6 days of Shawwal, starting with the second day of the feast, meaning straight after the Eid day. For this is the more effective discipline for the soul. Fast 3 days in each month, for these equal a perpetual fast. It is better, so these 3 fasts in the month are considered the middle days, the white days, the 13th, 14th and 15th of the lunar calendar. It is better if these are the white days, for the Prophet ﷺ never omitted to fast them whether he was at home or traveling. So that's the white days in reference to the 13th, 14th and 15th of every month. Again, that's the lunar calendar, the middle days. Fast often, especially in times of special merit, such as the inviolable months, meaning the sacred months, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram and Rajab, and noble days such as Mondays and Thursdays. Know that fasting is the pillar of discipline and the basis of striving. It has been said that fasting constitutes half of fortitude. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said, God the Exalted has said, all good deeds of the son of Adam are multiplied 10 to 700 fold, except fasting, for it is mine, and I shall reward a man for it. For he has left his appetite, his food and drink for my sake. End of the hadith. The one who fasts has 2 joys. So actually he brings another hadith. The one who fasts has 2 joys. One when breaking his fast, the other when meeting his Lord. And then he brings another hadith. The odor of the fasting man's mouth is more fragrant to God than that of musk. And then he brings a verse of the Quran. God says the truth and he guides to the way. So in summary, he brought the virtue of fasting and the essence of fasting itself, and how to make sure, and the emphasis on making sure that our Ramadan is productive. Just a little point on that is, you have the one hadith where the Prophet ﷺ quotes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying that all good deeds of the son of Adam are multiplied 10 to 700 fold, except for fasting. So any deed that you do, especially in the month of Ramadan or whilst in the state of fasting, it's very valuable. But it is said that for fasting, except fasting, you're not going to get that reward. For fasting, you will not get that reward. Why? For it is for me. It is mine. And I shall reward a man for it. I shall reward a man for it. So Allah said, I will personally give this person a gift. I will personally reward a person. Now, as to what that reward is, Allah knows best. But it's going to be personal. It's going to be something special from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That in of itself should drive a person to fast as much as possible, and to also take care that our fast is of the best quality, that we are not obscene, we don't use obscene language during our fasting days, that we do stay away from sin during our fast. We should stay away from sin anyway, but making sure that our fast is of great quality so that we can present it to Allah, and Allah will inshallah give us a gift which will be something special and will be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala personally. May Allah make us from amongst those who will be entered into Jannah and attain the special mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.